Whether it's food, history, or maybe it's food history, we got a fun roundtable for you today. Hello, everybody. My name is Rob. This is my mom, Karen. Welcome to Books, Banter Beyond. And today we have a couple really fun topics to talk about. Right up my alley, right up your alley, I think, too. Going to talk a little about books about food, and then we're going to follow up with how National Geographic stays so relevant today. Both are really interesting topics. So let's jump into the food. Obviously, I know cooking is something every culture, every family does. And books about food are not just about recipes, right? They are insights into history, the human experience, and yes, as I just said, the culture of the world. It can take you through people's memoirs. So let's say it's a chef or somebody of that region. It could take you through the history of how the food has grown or changed. Or it could just be a simple, interesting recipe cookbook. Or what do we have when the grandparents would make their own recipe books and just pass it down and be like, here's your cookbook, take it, there you go, and you're done. Yeah. But food shapes so many things. It shapes our identity. It connects communities together. You know how much community means to me and the store here. And then, of course, it sustains traditions, which is kind of like the grandparents passing down their cookbooks. You have a lot of different authors doing it. Michael Pollan had The Omnivore's Dilemma. We have Anthony Bourdain's Kitchen Confidential, amongst many of his other books that he talked about. But the genre is just so complex. And it's interesting because, you know, when you go to Google and you type in food books, it automatically assumes you're wanting recipes because that's kind of the algorithm.
Right.
So you have to kind of scroll down, but when you do find books about the chefs or about the culture, you find out that there's a lot of interesting history there. And, you know, I'm a history buff. I'll watch a lot of shows on it. And what's funny is somehow, even if the show is not about food directly, there's always a part of the history that goes back to the eating. And how that happens, I have no idea. I guess because it's so ingrained, but it's always funny how they can be talking about architecture or some sort of thing, and somehow in the middle of the show, they're talking about the food that they eat on a daily basis. And it's just like, boom.
Right, because maybe they found dishes and pottery and cookware, which is
that could be, yeah.
Right, and which kind of translates in what did they use it for?
Right. And that kind of goes to a question that we put together, how it influences the society, right? And sustainability and all that. And you're right. There's a way you not only physically do it, but there's a way, you know, there's the environment you're thinking about. There's the ethics you're thinking about. Many a customary thing for, let's say, a tribe of, like, let's say, Native Americans, Aborigines, tribes of Africa. All what they do is they do it correctly. They literally, they'll get their one thing, they'll plant what they have to plant, and then that's it. They don't overdo it, they don't overgrow, they don't kill extra just for the hell of it. And that's kind of the ethics and the environment, right? That's the societal view. We do it differently, and you know, whether, and again, that's a different subject. But I think as cultures change, and if you go, you know, America to England to China, to Russia, to wherever, everybody's going to be doing it differently. And it's because that's the history of it. That's where it came from. And you do it because that's what you're used to, you're taught, right?
Right. And I also think, though, that the books, the trends right now are books are being written around health reasons.
Okay.
That you should change your diet, whether it's the Mediterranean diet. It's not just the recipes, but why you should go to the Mediterranean.
Now, I'm actually going to throw one out here because this is something that always bugs me a little bit. And again, nothing against the health people that do it. There's always the things of saying, you know, you get those ads saying, you know, you have to eat this to do whatever. However, what I've noticed, especially for me with a sensitive stomach, it's not so much to follow what they're telling me. For me, I think the trend should be, or kind of is, it's you find the food that's good for you that you can actually enjoy and digest. So for instance, people will say, you know, peanut butter is a good healthy protein. I can't really eat it anymore, right? So what I'm looking for is maybe like an almond butter or a cashew butter. Same thing with snack foods. pistachios over,
Right.
let's say, peanuts.
Right.
So for me, and I'm glad you brought it up because it's something that's always on my mind. It's not so much that what they're telling you is wrong, but what I believe should be in the literature for food. It's more of a, okay, your body is different than somebody else's. So you obviously
Right.
need protein. You obviously
Right.
need your vitamins. What can you eat that will get you that, but it will also, you'll be able to enjoy it without the upset
Well,
stomach, without
so the question, do you think, and this is actually not even a question that we came up or you came up with, do you think that the books that are written with a doctor's input about food uh, makes it a better read? Or do you think doctors shouldn't be in the read about cultural,
I mean, obviously, they're in that business for a reason. They know what they're talking about. Specifically, I think with nutritionists and dietitians. So they're not wrong. I mean, they know what they're talking about. They've done their work. What I think, though, should be caveated is, this is the general consensus. So, for instance, chicken or fish are healthy things. However, I've talked to a lot of people that are allergic to chicken or they're allergic to fish, right? So they can only eat, let's say, beef
right,
or
right,
something else. So I think it's more of a, it's not a wrong, it's a, keep in mind as the doctor, you will have, let's say, 50 different people, and each of those people will have a different
right.
body type. And I think it's more of a, okay, you need protein. What can you eat? Like maybe they should ask the person, what have you eaten before that you can eat that is a good
And
source,
there's
and how
also
can we
testing.
maybe.
Yeah, there's also testing for that. For
And
that.
no, there is, and it's up to but I like the question because it's not a book I would follow, but I like the general idea of, okay, yes, you have to do this and this, but I think they should add, but do it how you can to make sure your body handles.
Right. And again, along those lines, I mean, a lot of this is cultural. It is cultural. So you got the Mediterranean diet. They literally talk about that as the people that live in the Mediterranean are eating this way
Greece and yeah, all that area.
are healthier. I mean, they're living longer. So there is actually, does that inspire a cultural understanding? So when we learn stuff like that and when we have conversations like that, does that inspire people to learn a little bit more about those cultures? I think it
Yeah, and I think it does. I think whether excuse me, whether or not you're going to eat it or do it, it's going to, at the least, it will explain to you why they have it that way. Now, we know that Greece, for instance, is on the coast. So most of what they've caught through history is fish.
right.
So it's no surprise that fish is a 98% part
Right. And
of their diet, right?
olive trees grow in those
Right,
areas.
exactly. So they
Why
use a
you
lot
have
of
olive oil,
the
yeah.
olive oils, olive pure. Same thing with the one country I love is actually Japan because they actually, from a young age, teach ethical and healthy eating. So when a kid, and I'm talking 5 or 6 year old, brings lunch to school, it's it's full of healthy protein like chicken or fish. It's got rice. It's got vegetables. So these kids only know healthy eating, right?
Yeah, I mean, we could go down
It's
a whole road on that right now. I mean, I've been seeing a bunch of pictures now of ketchup here in the United States has all of these ingredients, and then this, and this, and this. Ketchup by the same company in another country only has three ingredients. Why? Because it's what we allow versus what another country allows.
right, and that's a whole obviously another level there of different.
Whole nother level.
But it's very the whether or not you're going to abide by that diet. At
Right,
the least, it's going to show you how they grew historically, and maybe when if you do visit, it won't be such a shock because you'll be like, oh. I get it. I get why you have so much of this. I get why you have so much of this, or why you have none of this. And it all makes sense after
right,
reading these
right.
books about, yeah.
And we're back books about food, so it brings it all around back to that.
Right, and we did bring up Anthony Bourdain, and speaking of him, I don't know if you guys knew he actually did some interviews with National Geographic,
Our next topic.
not just about food, but it is one reason why, as the second question goes, they stay so relevant. So I love this one, and I think Dad watches the channel too. But there's National Geographic channel, and they have all sorts of stuff. They have a show called Drain the Ocean, where
Yeah.
they literally drain the whole thing to show you what's
Yeah.
under. They have a whole series, Lost Treasures of, and it's places like Egypt and
Yeah.
Rome, and they
They
go
have
inside.
they have children versions.
They have children's shows. it's a whole thing, and that's why I say it's irrelevant. But if you guys didn't realize, you can still read the magazines too.
I
They have
still get
not
it.
lost.
I still get it monthly.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that's really funny because most of
Can
the
you see
time
that over
when
there, Rob?
oh, there it is, yeah,
You see the
most of the
stats?
time when they do have a book and they go into TV, they stop making the thing. But as you've shown right there, you still have new copies of National Geographic. So they cover a gamut of things, whether it's wildlife, whether it's food, it's history, it's human nature or human history, excuse me, a whole slew of ideas. And they have a whole slew of people there. They have, Egyptologists, they have regular archaeologists, they have scientists, they have marine biologists. National Geographic. I laugh because I feel like they literally have a team of just every scientist in the world.
Right.
But okay, we need 5 people to dive here. We need 3 people to climb this mountain. We need 4 people to go to the Amazon. All right, you guys got it. All right, go do your thing. Come back in a month, and we'll get everything compiled and put on. You know, but I love it. I mean, I think National Geographic is something. I grew up reading it, obviously, because he had all of the magazines. But I think if you haven't read it, it's a magazine I think it's worth reading. If anything, just for the images. I mean, the photographers that work for this magazine, I mean, wow, holy
Yeah.
crap!
Wow.
Like
And, yeah. And to be honest, Rob, this is one of those magazines that I know Dad reads it from cover to cover. He literally reads it from cover
yeah.
to cover. It's one of those kind of magazines. I look at the pictures, or he'll say you should read this article, or something like that. But I don't think there are very many magazines out there. Scientific American might be another one where you literally will read it from cover to cover because it's one of those wow. It has that wow factor, right?
And recently on Libby, they actually added the magazine rack, and it's on the magazine rack. So just in there, you actually don't have to wait to borrow them. You can just grab them. So I decided to grab one. And I think it was one of their like end of year specials of the best whatever, and not paying attention to the article, but just kind of flipping through. And I forgot how the full page images and the color and the even the black and white that they do. So yeah, it's something that whether you read it physically or not, you're going to open page one and just go all the way through.
Right. And because they branched into digital media and to television and that, I think it actually they support each other that way. Because you'll watch a show, right, on television. Maybe you didn't even know. Well, I think you'd have to be under a rock not to know that there's a National Geographic magazine. But maybe you didn't know, or maybe you're young and you just don't know. They talk, I mean, the name, the word, and then all of
Right.
a sudden here now you say, oh, there's a magazine, and even more deep dive. I It's one of our favorite magazines, truly. I'm laughing because that is just a minor little stack. We have boxes of them because we're not really sure what to do with them after the fact. Maybe a library needs them. Anybody listening right now, you have a library and you need a bunch of National Geographics. They
I
really
can decorate the store with National Geographics all
There
over
you
the world.
go.
There
Okay,
you go.
I'm going to hold on to them then. I'm going to hold on to them.
And actually, so one of the questions we had to ask was, how does that expansion create more influence? And I think you hit it spot on. I think
Yeah.
it works both ways. Whether you watch it first or read it first, you're going to find the other via the one that you use regularly. I mean, like for instance, I didn't know it was on the Libby app, and I'm like, oh, hey, you can get magazines now. Like it's very shocking, but not so shocking when you think about it.
But it also stays very current as well. I mean, when they show us, the forests that are dying and that kind of stuff, and you realize how it affects us today. It's teaching, it's educational. I think every kid should be watching this and or reading the magazine. I don't think it's an either or. I think you can do both. um, it,
Oh,
it,
of course, yeah.
it talks about climate change. It talks about all of these. It shows us in real time, real life pictures and stories from around the world that are being affected by those things that we are being told are coming, right?
Definitely, definitely. And I love the last question we had. How does its commitment to storytelling impact how long it's been going on and how relevant it is? And I think it's just a matter of, unfortunately or fortunately, because there's also good stories as well.
Right.
They have a lot of information to go with, and I think no matter what, as long as they have people that are willing to go out there and snap those photos
Right.
and talk with the people and get intertwined with the world, you're going to have
Right.
loads of magazines, of shows, of internet, all of that.
And if that helps us all come together as a world
There
and
you go.
humanity, all more the better. We encourage you to go check out the bookstore, Next Chapter Bookstore.shop. Paperbacks, hardbound books, comic books. You can also check out the merchandise. Take your phone, go ahead and scan the QR code. It will take you right into the store. I love these topics today. I love National Geographic. So
Yeah, I mean, whether it's food, whether it's history, or whether it's both put together, can never get too bored of just learning about something. So,
nope, 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 nope. Let us know if you're a National Geographic reader. We'd love to know.
yeah.
Put it in the comments down below. We'll see you next time on Books, Banter, and Beyond. Goodbye, everyone.